We are back. I'm actually surprised that we're back. I mean, if you'd have known what we were putting up with earlier, you would understand why I'm surprised. But we are definitely back on air and talking to all of you lot. Now, we're just picking up on the West Ham game, and I actually do genuinely think it was one of the best performances of the season. I'm delighted to know that Jose listened to the show, and I suppose I ought to give a little bit of credit to Joe Tweeds. Little bit of credit to Joe Tweed, but basically about giving the side some balance and, of course, starting Mikel and, of course, putting Frank and Ramires in their best positions and, of course, playing in a 4-3-3. So, Pablo, is there a coincidence that we played pretty well and put in a good performance because of that?
Well, I think you have to bear in mind that you were playing a West Ham team that didn't play any strikers and is quite frankly awful. But yeah, it was certainly as an away game where you're not expected to completely dominate everything. It was probably the right thing to do, yeah. And it was an important win as well, really important win.
It was indeed, you know. And as I said, I actually enjoyed the football a lot. But I mean, the other thing that I thought was interesting, I mean, just to go back to the Mikel thing, it was very interesting. Two things were interesting. One is I was on TalkSport on Friday and I was a bit sloshed actually when I did the interview, which is a bit naughty because I'd been out for a few bevies and had to race back to Winchester to do the live thing I do, I think, once a month with them. So, but I did actually big up Mikel and say, look, you know, the thing that we're missing is that we need somebody in there in a defensive midfielder position to do the ugly stuff, win the ball and pass it out. And I'm delighted to see that Jose took note, of course, but he went kind of almost overboard, didn't he, in praising Mikel and saying how fantastic he'd been and what a great player he was. But it does lead me to the question, why on earth doesn't he play him more then if that's what he thinks about him, Ross?
Well, I think he looked especially good on Saturday because he was playing in that 4-3-3. He had a lot less ground to cover. He could sit and he could read the play, whereas in the sort of 4-2-3-1, he's got to be a bit more occupied with play on the left-hand side, and there tend to be more opposition sort of players running at him. So I think he looked a lot more settled and he had more options on the ball as well.
So you think that actually it suits... it suits Mikel to be playing in a 4-3-3 more than it does.
He's not the most agile of players, and I think that gets a little exposed in the 4-3-3.
He can't pivot enough. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Quite possibly, yeah.
I think the pivot could do a pivot, if you ask me. But what do you reckon, Tim? I mean, you were there. I mean, you probably got a much different sense of it than we did.
Well, I mean, the sense was, as Paul says, West Ham were a very poor team to me. They got Mark Noble working his socks off and other people just passengers or people who clearly aren't good enough. So I think, as Darren said, we could put Mikel there, and the others had far more freedom, given that they played Nolan as their striker for the first time.
Do you know what I did an interview with Dean Holdsworth years and years ago, and we were talking about Kevin Nolan. I think he scored a goal in some programme I was making, and Holdsworth was really keen to get this gag out about Kevin Nolan, and it was like, you know what we used to call him? And I said, no, I've got no idea. He said, we used to call him Jigsaw. And I was like, why did you call him... Because he always went to pieces in the box. And Dean was like really happy with himself. But I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know about Kevin Nolan as a striker.
But it also says so much about Allardyce.
Yeah.
That he wasn't set up to take off Joe Cole. You could see what the West Ham fans thought of Joe Cole being taken off, because their creativity went off the moment he went off.
Well, I think he realised that he'd made a complete tactical balls up of it all. And I mean, actually, it was quite interesting again reading Jose the next day for taking all of the credit in completely tactically outwitting Sam. And I'm thinking, mate, you've just tactically outwitted Allardyce, who was playing 4-6-0.
With Allardyce coming out and calling himself Sam Allardyce after he orchestrated the famous win at White Hart Lane or wherever it was.
Maybe he'll call himself Sam Allardyce now.
It does beg a belief. I know Tottenham were very poor yesterday, but it beggars belief that West Ham won 3-0 at White Hart Lane.
Oh, no, it doesn't. They were playing Spurs, mate. Come on. The joy of 6, it never gets boring, does it?
West Ham wouldn't have scored 3 if they'd played all weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, they were lucky to get 0, really, weren't they, as they like to say. Indeed. What do you think, Dazzling?
Allardyce wrote an article on Friday in the Evening Standard about how he's never beaten a Mourinho team, and you can sort of see why.
You can see why, can't you?
And the second time, obviously, Lampard scored a brace against him, and you think that he would know that Lampard is obviously going to be quite important. And it wasn't even the fact one's a penalty. Lampard had so many chances as well. He had so much space, and he was man of the match partly because of how poor West Ham were about actually getting near him.
It's interesting. I mean, just want to talk about this 4-3-3 thing. You know, I mean, we went on about it in the show quite a lot last season, didn't we? Saying we've got the players to play 4-3-3.
Well, last year we had 3 midfielders full stop. So
you know, we all seem to be much more in favour of it. It clearly, well,
I'm not.
Yeah, but you're just a... You nearly made me swear then, Pablo. Behave yourself. You know...
You wouldn't want us taken off air, would you?
Well, maybe I'll get him taken off air. That would be a good thing. But no, in all seriousness, you know, I think a lot more of us feel a lot more comfortable with the side playing 4-3-3 because we think that we've got the players that are more suited to that from the 4-2-3-1. And my point is, should we play 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3? My point is, you know, in what Mourinho said after the game, it sounds as if that he's not suddenly become converted back to 4-3-3. It seemed to me that he was saying, actually, I'm just going to be flexible and play horses for courses, and if I think 4-3-3 is the best way to play against this team, that's what I'll do. But if I think 4-2-3-1 is the best way to play against somebody else, I will.
And that's what you want, really.
I kind of think so,
You need
actually.
tactical flexibility. It's not about calling for one system or another. It's about being able to pick the best team to win a match.
People will otherwise cotton on too quickly, and we know Mourinho has a favoured plan B of taking the left back, putting someone else. So when he actually starts things differently, it does throw people off because you can probably see them thinking, oh yeah, Jose will do this, he'll do that, we'll plan our tactics around that, and then he doesn't.
And when I saw the team line-up the other day, I assumed it was a 4-2-3-1 with Ramires out wide on the right, and I don't know if everyone else thought the same.
That was my first thought, but then I had an inkling that Ramires only tends to play out wide sort of during a game as an emergency.
Was opposed to after the game or
no.
the following week?
Very good point. Yes, but I mean, as sort of a tactical change.
My problem with things like 4-3-3 is that when I've had enough time in the Southern Cross and the pub, when I turn up to the match, it looks more like 8-6-6 anyway. So it's a bit lost on me, the old formations.
I must admit, in the ground, I never got a clue.
Exactly. But, nevertheless, another reason why I bring it up is because I've heard all sorts of things about people saying that it's kind of club policy that everybody at every level plays 4-2-3-1, and I just think
it has been now, but
I just think that's a bit daft.
Well, no, it's because of the investment, isn't it? If you've spent...
It's like the Ajax system.
If you spent 150 million on 6 players to play in that 3 behind the striker, as we have done, then it's...
Yeah, but it's not very good if it doesn't actually win you anything, surely.
Well, it's won us quite a bit over the last couple of years.
Cups, but not the league. We've been nowhere in the
league. The team full stop hasn't been strong enough.
Even if we do start playing it more regularly and playing games with it, it's definitely a sort of short-term one-off solution because we've only got Mikel, other than the midfield 3 who played at Upton Park, and as Pablo says, we've got 6 attacking players behind the striker who would then be fighting for.
And they're all very, very good.
And they're all very, very good. Now, I've got a question for the benches. So stand by your beds, pay attention. Chadder, what are they saying on Mixler? 4-3-3 or not 4-3-3? That is the question.
Well, they seem to think that 4-3-3 is good because it's going to get the best out of Mikel and out of Lampard. Kevin Hennessy has said, though, that they should play 4-2-3-1 if they're looking to avoid defeat, but we're too good, so we should be going for 4-3-3. Sorry if I get your name wrong, but Mad Hussein Hahan has said depends where Lampard is played. If it's not working for us, then maybe a modified 4-3-3.
Very sensible.
Against the smaller teams will help us.
Yeah, very interesting. That's very interesting. Do you know, does anybody... I wonder if... I'm almost prepared to give a prize away to the listener who can remember what Chidge's favourite formation from last year, or in fact years before, was. I'm going to give it away because I can't resist, but remember me going on about 4-4-4?
No.
No? Oh, maybe you weren't on the show then. I can hope. But no, but a rather drunken moment on the podcast.
Are you doing a rugby show or something?
No, it's just I got a bit carried away, and I've never been good at adding up to it. And I think it was in the podcast days, and I'd had a few beers, and I said, but no, we've got to play 4-4-4, meaning 4-4-2. And yes, I've managed to add another couple of players in this summer. But that is a winning formation. Let's be frank, isn't it? You know,
until a team counters that with 5-5.
Exactly. Now, talking about Frank, well, there we go. That could happen, but only from somebody like Sam Allardyce, I suspect. Now, I want to talk about Frank. This is going to be a right Frank fest, as Ross rightly said. Sir Frank of Lampard rolling back the years. Now, of course, everybody knows, I suspect by now, that is actually Lamp's longest run without a Premier League goal, 10 games, but he absolutely buried that penalty, and of course, that's now 5-5 against West Ham. My point on that to you, happy hammers, is that's what happens when you boo Frank. He scores against you. And of course, he had a classic Frank goal for his second as well, but I mean, just lovely to see him playing in the right position and the right formation, and I think to get the best out of him, because we've been saying on the show for a long time, he is not a defensive midfielder or the midfielder on the pivot or whatever stupid phrase you want to call it. He doesn't belong there. He belongs up front, nearer the goal, so he can score a few. Yes?
Yes.
You can say more than yes, but I'm happy that you agree with me, Ross. What do you think? You're not going to say yes, are you?
Well, yeah,
You're going to say
yeah.
yes, but it's probably the best I ever get from you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's fair.
It's true, exactly. See, I know you too well, mate. Tim, what do you reckon?
I just think, I mean, obviously they've got to use him carefully because of the age thing, but he showed on Saturday what he can still do, especially against teams that can't work out how to deal with our midfield. I think he found space when you wouldn't expect him to.
Sweet. And also the fact you were saying about like the fans and everything else going there. He loves taking corners there and things like that. He likes being.
He loves the grief. I love this with the badge pointing it.
The goal when he scored, he came to our end. It was fantastic because the Hammers fans just upped and went as one. It's a sort of mass movement to our left.
I can imagine it. Yeah.
Last year, I can't remember last season or season before that, but after getting me through his Chelsea shirt and the West Ham end, and they were still all fighting over it. They can say they hate him all they want to, but they're still.
Because they're all about to sell it on eBay, mate. You know.
Was that the
scrap metal dealers, aren't they?
Was that a charity?
Yeah, he played a charity game at Upton Park.
No. It was when Chelsea played West Ham. He
Not the one with the 3 penalties.
No, it was years after that. It was only like 2 years ago. That was about 4 years ago. I think it's 4 years ago.
Tim made a very important point, I think, a minute ago. About, really saying we have to look after him, which I absolutely agree. I mean, how long do we think he can go on for? I think Frank himself said in the papers, it was in the papers in the weekend, saying that I'll stop playing if I feel I'm a passenger at Chelsea. I mean, how long do you think we can keep him going on for? Pablo?
It's hard to tell.
Darren,
the obvious answer is year by year, but for the sake of actually giving you a better answer than the obvious, I think.
Give me the obvious one.
That is just year by year. You've got to assess it, but
each game as it comes.
You think
we're going to have a cliche fine box. That's what we should do. Cliche fine box.
At least another 2 seasons. This season, next season.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a couple. I reckon if they manage him carefully, I think Tim's point is absolutely valid. If they manage him carefully, I don't think he's very fit.
You realise we're going to use you more sparingly then as well.
Well,
he's not very fit.
Well, that's true. But
we're not saving him for anything.
Save him from something.
Darren, tread very, very carefully. Funny, but be careful. Just another quick one to wrap the Frank love-in up. I thought nice point actually. I thought it was lovely to see him putting his arm around Oscar as they went off at half time, and it just kind of showed because Oscar's, Frank's quite a hero to Oscar. As I've learned, and it'd be nice.
Any of the new signings?
Well, yeah, but particularly Oscar because he kind of plays in a similar position, and I think there's a nice opportunity for Frank to mentor people like Oscar. But the other thing is Joe Tweeds, who I love, no less a man than, of course, did have a great thing on Twitter yesterday about shall we build a statue to Frank, or should we name a stand after him? Or just name the club after him, really. I'd be perfectly happy with that.
Can we wait till he retires?
We could do that, yeah. But I think the serious point in this is that, you can't let him disappear. I think he has to have some sort of a coaching role at the club when he hangs up his boots.
Well, the only thing would stop that, I suspect, would be if he went into the media. If he felt that that's what he'd rather do.
He's too good for Chelsea TV. Frank, you're always welcome on the FanCast. It's kind of your level. You deserve this kind of a show. I was thinking we're replacing Darren, really.
I would have thought that the club will recognise him. He's the leading scorer. They'll recognise him in some way.
I think we should call him Sir Frank of Lampard, though. I think a knighthood's definitely on the cards. It
will take years and years, though, before the club do. After all the supporters raising it time and time again, they didn't even recognise him last season when they didn't want to give him a new contract. They hated even putting anything about him, like over the Christmas sort of periods. They won't recognise him for years and years till people say things that'll be too late for really.
Well, I don't know. I suspect they'll offer him a position at the point that he decides to retire, providing it goes on his terms.
Might be Ryan Giggs, because Giggs is now doing
Ryan Giggs and role model in the same sentence, Tim. Brother's wife and all that, allegedly.
The way United have... If you stick to football, the way United have handled him has been very good. That he's playing less games every season. He's come in on the coach.
Sorry, we've just seen the gallery fall off their chair in fright at the impending lawsuit. That'll be
which is why I attempted to...
I did say allegedly.
But the bottom line is, he will gradually fade off the playing side and come on the coaching side. They supported him through his badges, and if we do the same with him, you could see the same happening here. We gradually fade off the footballing side and into the coaching side.
I'd love to see that happen.
Can I just point out, in the script, it looks like you want a statue and a stand named after Joe Tweeds.
Well, now you're talking.
Why not?
Ross. Yeah,
as my editor, I would agree completely.
I think a statue of Joe Tweeds for a start, and I think we'll name Gate 17 the Joe Tweeds Gate. How about that?
The double pivot gate, sure.
Double pivot gate. Yeah, I think he would make.
And he's also got a coaching role as well. Apparently, it's done.
Well, I think Joe should definitely have a coaching role. He talks more sense about football than anybody I know. Look, very, very quickly, because we are kind of running out of time a little bit. Very quickly, Oscar, Brilliant. What a player. What a fantastic performance. But my worry with Oscar is because he's now officially played 1,273 games since last week. Do we worry about burnout?
You've ruined his key stat for the week.
No. I checked his stats. He didn't have that one in there, trust me. But do we worry about him burning out? I mean, should we be worried about him burning out? I'm a bit worried. You're not worried?
No, not really.
He's incredibly fit.
And also, as a team, there are people that are capable of replacing him, as you well know. So
Yeah, Matthew's sit on the bench.
I know, but Oscar's becoming, I think he's becoming our key player. And we've been saying it since he's been here. He's going to be a hell of a player.
Yeah, and he's been probably certainly our best defensive player so far this season. But he's also had games where he's been quiet.
And surely he'll be rested. It'll be Matter starting midweek this week and in 2 weeks' time.
I think you're probably right. Now, very, very quick, I want to hear from the benches. I just want them to add to the Sir Frank of Lampard love-in.
Yeah, well, Tactics Wizard reckons he can go on for another 4 years.
Yeah.
Joe Tweeds reckons he can go on to his 98.
Joe Tweeds can.
I hope so.
A chilling thought.
And Babalola thinks...
Babalola?
Babalola.
Lovely name.
Yeah, he agrees with Darren that he thinks he'll be another kind of 2 years.
And I liked him for a second before he said he agrees with Darren. But no, they're all full of Frank love, which is great. I tell you, actually, I'm full of love for somebody else, actually, as is the crowd. But I thought Aspie is really growing in confidence and beginning to look really accomplished, even though he's playing it out of position. Superb tackle on Morrison. Proper defender's tackle, where he followed him for about 30 yards. And Morrison is a good player, I believe, but he made him look ordinary. He made him look... He just mugged the ball off him. It was beautiful. And there's another song which is apparently...
I'm not having this, by the way.
No, I'm not having it either, because I like our song, but it's, there's only one Aspicueta, Winter Wonderland, that version. He used to be shy, but now we think he's all right, walking in an Aspi... No, ours is better.
We never
ours
thought
is better.
he was shy.
Yes, thank you, Darren. I've been steaming about this all weekend. We never thought he was rubbish. We thought he was brilliant.
He was inconsistent in the start of last season, but you could see he had talent, and then by the end of the season, he was one of our best players.
I know you think you're clever out there for this song, but we disagree. And Darren's,
There's sung about people like Emma Heskey before as well. Like, it shouldn't be sung about.
Darren's song is better. Darren's song is better, and I commend you to that one.
La, 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 la.
Yeah. Now, the final thing, because I know we've got to go to a break in a minute, much as it pains me to do, because when we win, I could do the entire 2 hours on talking about the victory, and I'd be perfectly happy. But annoyingly, we've got other things to talk about. I just want to talk about Jose's new haircut. Modelled on Darren, as you can see. I mean, Darren's not quite as grey, but a few more weeks on the podcast and I can arrange that. To me, it says he means business and he's getting tougher and a bit more serious. But I'd just like to say on the record, Jose, I still think you're a very beautiful man, OK?
I do think his hair, when he does that, when he did it the first time, and he said about him being ready for war and everything else pre-season. Yeah. It does suit me. It's good, isn't it? I'm all for the crew cut. Right, we've got to go to the break, sadly, but that's been great fun. We will be back in a minute for the fannies.